WWE's master plan for heel John Cena versus Randy Orton after WrestleMania 41 is not just another rerun of a classic rivalry. It is a calculated act of long-term storytelling that draws from decades of shared history, fan psychology, and the company's urgent need to ignite authentic emotional investment in a product that has become increasingly corporate and formulaic. It begins with a pivotal truth: John Cena's full heel turn, which unfolded at Elimination Chamber 2025 and solidified at WrestleMania 41, has unlocked a new narrative depth WWE hasn't been able to explore with him since the Ruthless Aggression era. This new Cena is ruthless, cunning, manipulative, and stripped of his once indestructible moral compass. And the man positioned to be his foil is someone who knows him better than anyone: Randy Orton. In the aftermath of WrestleMania 41, where Cena betrayed the fans in spectacular fashion and ensured Cody Rhodes didn't finish his story, the atmosphere shifted. WWE is no longer relying on the nostalgia pop or surface level shock. They are engineering chaos within the canon of their own mythology. Cena has already reinvented himself as the anti-hero puppet master of WWE's top narrative threads. The logical next phase is to drag someone from his past into his new world, a man who was once his greatest rival, greatest ally, and ultimately his closest mirror. Orton's return to the main event scene has been slow burned across months, carefully timed to coincide with Cena's transformation. This isn't coincidence, this is a design. From a storytelling standpoint, Orton's inclusion isn't just about rekindling an old flame, it's about exposing the difference between two legends shaped by the same system, who now stand for opposite truths. Cena, once the face of loyalty, hustle, and respect, now embodies disillusionment with the fans, disdain for the current roster, and a bitter nostalgia for an era where the locker room was run by sharks. Orton, meanwhile, has evolved into a grizzled veteran who has embraced the new generation, showing respect to emerging stars and mentoring them in ways he never received. Where Cena spits on evolution, Orton has matured within it. That juxtaposition is WWE's core dramatic device. The dynamic works because it shatters expectations. Fans never envisioned Orton being the moral anchor of a program with Cena, yet here we are. Cena's promos are now venomous and articulate, casting himself as the necessary evil to preserve WWE's legacy. He blames the fans for abandoning him during his prime, and now mocks their desperate yearning for nostalgia. Orton, in contrast, doesn't beg for respect. He's earned it through survival, evolution, and quiet resilience. His promos have been laced with quiet fury, not because Cena turned heel, but because he sees the man he once respected become everything he fought against. What gives this feud a unique sting is that it's not rooted in championship gold. WWE is positioning this war as something more eternal, an ideological clash between two enduring titans who no longer agree on what the business should be. Cena wants to destroy what the new generation represents, while Orton wants to protect it. This isn't about belt chasing, this is about legacy warfare, and WWE is weaponizing their history to make the emotional weight unbearable. Backstage, the plan is even more intricate. WWE has been quietly seeding dissent across the locker room. Cena has begun targeting babyface favorites, not out of personal vendetta, but to prove a point that none of them can carry the company. His attacks on LA Knight, his mind games with Sami Zayn, and his cryptic promos about failed projects are all designed to provoke a locker room revolution. Orton will stand at the head of that rebellion, not because he wants to be a leader, but because he knows someone has to check Cena before he burns the whole house down. The match architecture itself is already being carefully constructed. This won't be a one-off contest. WWE's long-term plan involves stretching this program through the entire summer into a crescendo at SummerSlam 2025, with major pit stops along the way at King and Queen of the Ring and Money in the Bank. The feud will be built like a war saga, with each chapter escalating not just in violence, but in philosophy. Cena will manipulate people Orton cares about. He may injure Riddle, provoke Cody again, or even gaslight younger stars like Braun Breaker or Carmelo Hayes into siding with him. Cena will become the serpent in the garden, corrupting talent, while Orton stands as the defiant last line of resistance. From a psychological standpoint, WWE wants to make fans question who truly changed. Is Cena wrong for wanting to destroy a fan base that only loves him now that he's old? Or is Orton naive to believe that anything sacred still exists in WWE? These aren't simple good guy versus bad guy tropes. The story is structured to make you reflect on what the industry has become. Cena is forcing the audience to confront their own hypocrisy, while Orton quietly becomes the moral compass by default. Not through saintly behavior, but because he's the only one still fighting with dignity. Creative has also flirted with turning this into a mentor versus monster story. Cena has already called himself the true prototype, mocking the idea that anyone can be built in a lab to replace him. He sees Orton as the last natural rival, the final boss before WWE hands the company over to the generation he despises. Cena's goal isn't just to beat Orton, it's to retire him, erase him from history, and prove that the only legacy that matters is his own. Orton, in response, isn't seeking victory, he's seeking preservation. He's trying to keep WWE's soul alive, even if it kills kills him. The marketing approach has also been deeply layered. WWE has begun repackaging old Cena-Orton matches through a new lens. On Peacock and social media, they're presenting their history with ominous new commentary. Clips of their TLC 2013 War, their Hell in a Cell battles, and their infamous 2009 I Quit match are being repurposed as prophecy. Fans are seeing the seeds of this feud not as repetition, but revelation, that all of their previous wars were merely rehearsals for the reckoning now coming. There's also the potential inclusion of third-party characters that could deepen the narrative. Paul Heyman, who has already betrayed CM Punk and Roman Reigns in recent months, may find himself drawn into this saga. While Heyman and Cena have minimal shared history, his manipulation of Roman once positioned him as a kingmaker. Could Cena seek his counsel to weaponize his new persona? Or will Heyman back Orton, seeing him as the only savior capable of preserving the lineage of Reigns? WWE is keeping that card close to the chest, but the potential for Heyman to influence the mind games adds another layer of unpredictability. Cinematic storytelling is also being used more heavily in this feud. WWE has quietly hired outside directors to produce high-end vignettes that blend archival footage with new, brooding monologues. These aren't just hype packages, they're psychological studies. Cena's promos are shot in dim locker rooms, filled with echoes of past matches and overlaid with cynical narration. Orton's responses are filmed in silence, with long takes and ambient music emphasizing his internal conflict. This isn't just about violence, it's about emotional trauma. Merchandise strategy has followed suit. Cena's new heel merch is minimalist and aggressive. Black, gold, and blood red designs with cryptic phrases like, "You built me, now I'll break you." Orton's gear is returning to his legacy Apex Predator aesthetics, but with a darker, more battle-worn look. WWE understands that fans want more than t-shirts. They want symbols of allegiance. This war is becoming tribal. The path to their eventual confrontation is also riddled with sacrifice. WWE plans to have Cena leave a trail of destruction. Some have even suggested he'll sabotage a championship match at King of the Ring, targeting someone like Gunther or even interfering in a women's division match just to prove that chaos is his new doctrine. Orton's response won't be a promo, it will be an attack. WWE wants the moment Orton finally snaps and hits an RKO on Cena to feel seismic. They want arenas to erupt not in surprise, but in catharsis. That will be the moment Orton reclaims his purpose, not as a company man, but as the only man left who can make Cena feel pain. And yet, even in battle, WWE isn't offering a clean resolution. This isn't a redemption arc. They're leaving room for both men to lose. Cena might win the match, but lose what's left of his humanity. Orton might win the war, but at the cost of his body and legacy. There is no tidy ending here. That's the brilliance of the story. It mirrors life. There are no clean heroes, only survivors. No final victories, just consequences. WWE is also laying groundwork for what this feud means post-SummerSlam. If Cena does succeed in corrupting some of the new generation, those fractured loyalties will carry over into future storylines. Orton's influence will birth a new code in the locker room, a sense of respect and discipline that becomes its own movement. This isn't just a feud, it's a cultural reset for WWE. Cena vs. Orton is the ground zero event for a new era, one where nostalgia is weaponized and morality is subjective. And perhaps that's WWE's boldest bet, that by finally breaking Cena, they can rebuild the mythology of what a true WWE legend is. Someone who sacrifices, evolves, and ultimately confronts the darkest parts of himself. By turning Cena into a villain and letting Orton become his reluctant conscience, WWE has flipped its two most iconic veterans into roles they were born to play, but never fully explored. As the smoke clears from WrestleMania 41 and the company enters its volatile new chapter, the most important variable WWE is manipulating in this Cena versus Orton feud is time. Time has warped these two men, reshaped their intentions, and distorted their once parallel journeys into violently opposing forces. Cena's heel persona isn't just about taking shortcuts or cheap heat. He's transformed into something elemental, a figure whose motivations are no longer tied to titles or crowd reactions, but to vengeance against the system that chewed him up and spat him out only to beg for his return when all other stars fell short. WWE knows how to weaponize this bitterness. They've allowed Cena's character to develop into a bitter architect, someone crafting a vision for the company where his values, discipline, sacrifice, control are the only truths that matter. What makes this iteration of Cena especially dangerous is how lucid he is. He isn't impulsive, he isn't angry for the sake of anger. He is cold, methodical, and terrifyingly precise in his manipulation. He calls out the fans not with screaming promos, but with surgical statements that sting harder than 100 pipe bombs. When he looks into the camera, camera and tells them, "You didn't love me. You tolerated me." It hits like a revelation. WWE is letting him tap into the most complex resentment a performer can express, the kind that has lived inside him for over 15 years, buried beneath every fake smile, every forced return, every "you still got it" chant that he never wanted to hear. The company knows the risk. Fans have seen this rivalry a dozen times, but never like this. Never with Cena unleashed, never with Orton emotionally invested, never with the fate of WWE's soul on the line. This is no longer a match, it's a morality play. And in that theater, every word, every blow, every betrayal is designed not just to entertain, but to haunt.